Hello to all and welcome back to Should You Get. I'm Brother Templar and finally it's arrived, the Gloster Meteor Mark III. About 2 weeks later than I said it would, but it doesn't matter, that's all in the past now, and what matters is it's finally got on the channel and I can finally give my verdicts on this quite controversial aircraft. This is one of those aircraft that you'll either be saying it's completely overpowered and is the best thing ever, or it's completely underpowered and it's the worst thing ever, and there are very few who are in between. But enough about that for now, and let's get on to the history of the aircraft, and what made it what it was. As per usual, however, if you would like to just look at the review on War Thunder, then the time is on your screen to skip to now. Are you gone yet? Good, we don't need any of your kind around. We need the true kind around here that like history and are sad enough to actually want to listen to this crap. You know, like me. In 1936, the Gloster Aircraft Company and Sir Frank Whittle's firm formed together the Power Jets Limited. This was to, well, as you'd probably imagine, make jets, and Whittle himself was the chief engineer over this project. In early 1937, the first jets were designed. The first prototype, known as the WWII, began trials of the same year. On 28th of April 1939, Whittle made a visit to the premises of the Gloster Aircraft Company, where he met several important figures, but most importantly George Carter himself, Gloster's chief designer. Now, Carter took a keen interest in his project, and was exceptionally interested in the operational V1 jet engine, and was quick to come up with several proposals of various aircraft designs that could be powered by the engine. Whittle had also been designing jet-powered bombers due to the start of the Second World War, and, unsurprisingly, the government took a lot of interest in his various jet designs, probably because, well, there was a war on. And unsurprisingly, the Air Ministry contracted Gloster to manufacture a prototype aircraft powered by one of Whittle's new turbojet engine designs in late of 1939. The first ever fully operational jet-powered British design was the E-26/39, an aircraft that flew on the 15th of May 1941 and successfully flew for 17 minutes. In August 1940, Carter presented Gloster's initial proposals for a twin-engined jet fighter with a nose-wheel undercarriage. And on the 7th of February 1941, Gloster received an order for 12 prototypes. A letter of intent for the production of 300 of the new fighter, initially to be named Thunderbolt, was issued on the 21st of June 1941. However, to avoid confusion with the United States Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, which had been issued with the same name from the RAF, the aircraft variant was subsequently changed to Meteor. On the 5th of March 1943, a prototype by the serial number DG-206 made its first ever flight. However, it was powered by the de Havilland Halford H1 engines instead of the intended W2 engines. This is because, well, unfortunately there were problems with the engines, meaning that they couldn't get it into a design before they were intending on flying it for its first prototype. But the first Whittle-engined aircraft, known as the DG-205G, flew on the 12th of June 1943, but later crashed during takeoff on the 27th of April 1944. However, it was shortly followed on its first ever takeoff by the DG-202G on the 24th of July 1943. After a lot of design alterations and improvements, the DG-208G made its debut on the 20th of January 1944, by which time most of the problems had been solved due to these improvements, and the DG209G was used as an engine testbed for the Rolls-Royce engines, first flying on the 18th of April 1944. And with that, the design was complete, and on the 12th of January 1944, the first Meteor F1 took to the air. It was essentially identical to the F940 prototypes, except for the addition of 4 nose-mounted 20mm Hispano Mark V cannons. However, due to the F1's similarity to the prototypes, they were frequently operated in a test program to progress British understanding of jet propulsion, and it actually wasn't until July 1944 that the aircraft actually entered squadron service. Now, originally, the Air Ministry ordered 300 F1 designs, but only 20 were produced altogether, as follow-on orders came to stop production on the F1s and convert them to the more advanced models that came after them. But of course, you'll know its successor better as the Gloster Meteor F Mark III, the very one I'm actually here to talk about in War Thunder. And in August 1944, the first F3 prototype flew. These were fitted with the Welland engine, as the Derwent engine productions only just started at this point. Now, a total of 210 F3 aircraft were produced before they were in turn superseded by the production of the Meteor F4. But I'm sure you're all itching to know how well the Gloster Meteor was in the Second World War. I mean, the two legendary heavyweight jet champions of the Second World War were of course the German Messerschmitt 262 and the British Gloster Meteor Mark III. So you're imagining that they were the two really awesome fighters that got loads of kills and did really well. But I think you'd be surprised, as I know I was, and I was actually quite disappointed as well. On the 21st of July 1944, the Gloster Meteor Mark I's were moved to Kent, where they were initially used to counter the V1 flying bombs flying over from France. All in all, they shot down 14 flying bombs before France was captured, as well as all of the V1 launch sites, so the V1 threat was no longer a thing. On the 18th of December 1944, the number 616 Squadron exchanged their F1s for the first Meteor F3s. And on the 20th of January 1945, 4 Meteors from the 616 Squadron were moved to Belgium and attached to the 2nd Tactical Air Force. However, they weren't allowed to fly over any German-occupied land for the fear of the Germans salvaging the aircraft. And well, when it comes to such high-tech engineering as this, you don't really want your enemies getting their grubby hands on them. So inevitably, they only played air defence throughout the entire war up until the last few months of the war. However, many of the pilots hoped that for them simply being there and intercepting German bombers and reconnaissance aircraft, they hoped that it would provoke the Luftwaffe to send the legendary Messerschmitt 262s to fight them, which of course would have been the epic battle, the two main juggernauts of both forces, the height, nay the pinnacle of technology from both sides fighting each other, and it would have been indeed one of the greatest aerial battles of the Second World War. So you'll be more than saddened to hear that this never happened, and in fact the Messerschmitt 262s and the Gloster Meteors never fought each other. I mean, I have heard some reports that the Gloster Meteors did strafe out 262s while still on their runways, during the final months of the war, where they were allowed to have reconnaissance and to mainly attack hostile aircraft on runways and various other things like that. But once again, no two jet aircraft fought each other during the entire Second World War, which is very sad as far as I'm concerned, and is probably one of the saddest battles that never happened. All in all, 46 German aircraft kills were confirmed through ground attack, and interestingly enough, the Gloster meteors were never shot down by enemy fire. However, that doesn't mean that they were never, shall we say, knocked out the sky, if you will, as two crashed due to poor visibility into each other, and friendly fire from Allied AA guns accidentally shot one down, thinking that it was a 262. To counter this, the meteors were then given an all-white finish as a recognition aid. And that's all the history you need to know on the Gloster meteors. But I better say something random now, so everyone who jumped ahead will hear that and get very confused. Hang on. And with that, Hitler actually was capable of hitting the left engine of the Mark III and actually knocking it out of the sky, claiming the first air-to-air kill on a Gloster meteor by Hitler himself flying an Me-262. And that's all the history I need to tell you for today, so let's get on to the aircraft in-game and see how good it is and how well it lives up to its historical reputation. And indeed, this aircraft is of great controversy. Half the people who fly it says it's really overpowered, half the people who fly it say it's really underpowered, and well, it's a very controversial topic because of this. So let's look into the aircraft and see if it's overpowered, underpowered, or just right. So let's start off with the positives about this aircraft. And the first big positive you'll notice about this aircraft is that it has a very fast turn time. It's easily one of the fastest turning jets in the game, and in fact one of the fastest turning aircraft of its battle rating. Very few propeller-driven aircraft can actually turn with this thing, and even fewer jets can. I mean, the only aircraft that are predominantly better at turning than this, well, jet aircraft mind you, would be the Yak 15s and 17s. So, other than that, it's very good at turning with just about anything else. Another good thing about this aircraft is that it has very good energy retention and will allow it to drop from 400 or so miles an hour right down to ground level, and as long as you stay level, it will stay there, if not keep climbing, so it has very good energy retention. And there are other things about this aircraft that are okay, such as the cannons on it. You get 4 20mm Hispano Mark V cannons in the nose, which is okay. It's not bad, but it's not good. It's okay, it's satisfactory, it's run-of-the-mill, it's the least that you'd want at a 7.0 battle rating, and since they are in the nose, they will be on average more accurate than your standard propeller-driven aircraft like your Tempests and your Spitfires with them, so that's always nice. But like any controversial topic, it of course also has its massive disadvantages. The first disadvantage I would mention is its roll rate, which is very slow. This is one of those types of aircraft that cannot roll with just about anything, and is basically the P-51 of jets when it comes to roll rate. It is very slow, and if you're someone like me who relies quite a lot, especially on head-ons with roll-offs, it won't. Simply put, it just won't. It's so slow at that, so that's something you need to remember. But the other big issue about this aircraft is the big issue that everyone knows about, and it is, well, its speed. You see, this aircraft has a top speed of 469 miles an hour, which, for anyone who's never flown a jet before, sounds pretty fast, and that's because, well, in comparison to just about any propeller-driven aircraft, it is. But when you're sitting at a 7.0 battle rating, speed is a very vital part, and on average for a 7.0 battle rating, you are looking between about 490 to about 530 will be the speed you're coming up against. 490s are going to be for like stock aircraft, and the 590s are going to be some stock aircraft, but mainly like aced aircraft you'll be coming up against. And that's the problem. This aircraft is slow. It's really slow. In fact, it is so slow that it is, in fact, the slowest stock jet in the game, ladies and gentlemen. In the game. And I know what you're thinking, but surely the Yak 15s and Yak 17s are slower, right? They're infamously slow. But, well, for stock, they're not. They're about 3 to 5 miles an hour faster than the Meteor. So yeah, it is in fact the slowest stock in the game. However, it's not quite the slowest in the game, because once aced, this aircraft is about, once again, about 3 to 5 miles an hour faster than the Yak 15s and 17s, so it's not the slowest in the game, but it's not off by far, and it is still very slow in comparison to all 7.0 aircraft in the game, as well as some 6.7s and, well, 8.0s, as you will be going up against them quite a lot in this aircraft. And this is indeed where the main problems with the aircraft lie, and at a 7.0 battle rating, it does, well, suffer, because most 7.0 battering aircraft are better than it. I mean, you've got your 262s, which have much better armament and are a lot faster. You've got your 229s, which are faster, better armament, and can turn with you. And you've even got bombers, like the Arado 234s, that are faster than you. Ladies and gentlemen, jet bombers are faster than you in a jet fighter. So, I think you're starting to see the big issue and why a lot of people have a big problem with this aircraft and its speed. But don't misinterpret my words. I am not saying this aircraft is bad or that you can't do well in it. You very much can, and I have done very well in this aircraft many times over. But most of my kills I get in this aircraft are from the incompetence of other players. People who are trying to turn fight me in other jets like P-80s, F-84s, 262s, all these aircraft that can't turn with this thing, and yet they do it anyway. And that's where a lot of my kills come in, as well as aircraft trying to head on me, like, once again, P-80s, F-84s, Heinkel 162s, and aircraft like that that don't have as good armament as me, and yet they go for head-ons anyway, and it's ridiculous. So, that's how I've done so well in it, but on paper, it's worse than most 7.0 battle rating aircraft, by far. Which asks the question of, should it go down to 6.7? And that's a hard question, and one I've been thinking of for a very long time. In fact, it has taken me days to come up with this conclusion, because the thing is, it's fine at a 7.0, kind of, because the thing is, it's good against most props it comes up against, but it does struggle a little bit against other 7.0s, and should not be going up against 8.0s at all. So, naturally you'd think, oh, put it down to 6.7, but then that would mean it would come up against 5.7 battle rating aircraft, which might be unfair. So I've had a lot of thinking about it, and I've eventually come to the conclusion that it should go to 6.7 for these very important reasons, right? And before everyone starts throwing their toys out their prams in the comment section, hear me out. My reason is this. Putting it down to 6.7 means that it will not go up against 8.0, which is good because it should not be doing that at all. And it'll mean that it won't going up against 7.0s as much. You'll still go up against them a lot, but it won't go up against them as much. And most of the 5.7 battle ring aircraft in the game, I wouldn't say it would be ridiculously unfair for this thing to fight. Most of them, I would imagine, could put up a pretty decent fight against this. So all in all, I would say putting it down to 6.7 would be a good idea. But, you know, once again, it's a bit of a difficult one to call. Which brings us to the final question of the night, which is, should you get the Gloster Meteor F Mark III? And, well, I'd say yes. But I'd say yes with a massive disclaimer, and the disclaimer is quite simply this. First of all, don't rely on rolling, because it's as slow as balls, and you will get annoyed, because it's slow. It will annoy you, and enemy aircraft will quite happily boom and zoom you if they are even remotely competent pilots, which does get very annoying. So that's all from me for today. If you like what you saw, make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and until next time, I say thank you very much, and I'll see you then.